Good afternoon, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be here with you here today, and I will be your moderator for this session. I'm Fabienne Gauthier. I'm in charge of innovation ecosystems in DG Research and Innovation. And I'm very happy to be with you today with our distinguished speakers and also with the audience to discover more about the pioneering Attract project, which is an initiative that illustrates very well how an efficient ecosystem in deep tech works. Attract is a project which is funded by the European Commission under Horizon 2020. It's a project under the Research Infrastructures Program of Horizon 2020. It gathers a consortium of 6 major European infrastructures in Europe. It is led by CERN, and it shows how development of innovation potential of research infrastructures in Europe is possible, how this innovation can also lead to disruptive innovations in the field of detection and imaging technologies. The project of Attract brings together major infrastructures, as I've said, universities, research centers in many different technological fields. For instance, medical imaging, satellite imaging, and also ICT sensors, and so on. So a broad coverage of various scientific fields. So it puts forward a very interesting experience. You will see it later on with our speakers. It brings together also interesting experiences and projects together with students, and I also then will immediately pass the floor to my speakers in order also to discover more about Attract. So before we start our discussion to know more about Attract, I would ask our speakers to very briefly introduce themselves, and then we will go more into details about how the project itself works, about its various components, and understand also what makes it such a pioneering initiative in innovation, in deep tech, creation of a deep tech innovation ecosystem. So let's start with our speakers. Good afternoon, Maria Makarov. Could you please briefly introduce yourself?
Thank you very much, Chair. So my name is Maria Makarov, and I'm a director of Biosafety Finland, which is a nationwide research infrastructure in the area of life sciences and biomedicine. I'm a member of the European Innovation Council Advisory Board and former member of the governing board of the European Institute for Innovation and Technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Welcome. I shall give the floor to Jonathan Wareham. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Fabian. My name is Jonathan Wareham. I'm a professor of information systems at ESADE Business and Law School in Barcelona, Spain. And we are also a member of the project consortium board who runs the day-to-day machinations of the Attract project.
Thank you, Jonathan, and welcome. Shall we invite Cynthia to pre-introduce herself? Good afternoon, Cynthia Davia.
Thank you. Thank you, Fabienne. My name is Cynthia Davia. I am a professor of physics at the University of Manchester and a visiting professor at the University of Stony Brook in USA. I am also a co-chair of the independent committee of the Attract consortium.
Thank you, Cynthia, and welcome. Now, Michael Kish. Good afternoon, Michael.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Fabienne. I'm actually a scientist at the European Synchrotron Radiation Facility in Grenoble, one of the Attract partners. I got involved in Attract when I was head of the Instrumentation Services and Development Division in charge of the ESREF's instrumentation program, and I currently serve as chair of the Attract Project Consortium Board.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome. And to our last speaker of our panel today, Sini Simpura. Welcome, Sini.
Hi, thank you. So my name is Sini Simpura. I am a master's level student in mechanical engineering in Aalto University, and I was part of a student team that had a project for Attract.
Thank you, Sini, and welcome to all of you. Welcome also to our audience. I'm very happy to be able to talk about Attract today. And as we could see from our panel, we have lots of different knowledges and experiences in the Attract project, which I also hope will give you the possibility to discover Attract through different views and also through different experiences. Our session will have two parts. The first one will be about discovering a little bit more about Attract, how it works, what are its components, and how also are the links that can be made through Attract in building an ecosystem. And then in the second round of discussion, we will go more into the forward-looking and also into the elements of the success of Attract and what we can possibly also do more to improve, to have also Attract as a model for other innovation ecosystems. So may I suggest that we immediately go through our first round of discussion. And since we want to know more about Attract, I would like maybe Michael to tell us a little bit more about the origin of Attract. How was this project built and where did it come from? Michael, the floor is yours.
Okay, indeed, you wrapped it up quite nicely, your introduction. So if we go back to the origin of Attract, it was actually sometime in 2014, where it was essentially motivated by the general observation that European research infrastructures, their national counterparts and their associated quite large user communities are definitely at the forefront of science. But many of the science-enabling technologies, often beyond the current state of the art, do not make it to the market and therefore are not exploited to the benefit of society. So the idea of Attract, therefore, was to establish a framework for transforming breakthrough technologies developed for pursuing often fundamental research at the beginning into breakthrough innovations with strong industrial applications and added value for society. And this, as you mentioned, brought together 6 European research infrastructures who are part of IRO Forum, the European Intergovernmental Research Organization Forum. And an important element of Attract was that early on, we got on board the European Industrial Research Management Association to provide a link with European industry, and Aalto University and ESADE, two leading institutions in challenge-based design thinking, to provide the methodologies for a successful implementation of the open innovation process. So that already is quite special for Attract. As you mentioned, we're very grateful to having received funds for phase 1. We have selected 170 projects out of 1,200 proposals for 100 euro seed funding. And we are happy that all these selected projects cover partners from many countries and the full spectrum from universities over research and technology organizations to small and medium-sized enterprises, research infrastructures, and even to a small extent, large industrial corporations. We had just 2 days ago our final conference, and I was extremely impressed by the diversity and quality of the projects, and things look really very promising.
Great, thank you, Michael. I was just unmuting my micro. Thanks for this for the description of Attract, and also some already you can go into the various facets of Attract. And now I would maybe also go directly to Jonathan, who could talk to you a little bit more about the various experiences conducted under Attract, and notably some experiences with projects with students, so student pilot projects that I know you developed in Attract. What is the role of students in Attract, and how can this trigger and nurture amazing ideas? How can this lead to thinking out of the box? So please, Jonathan, can you talk to us a little bit more about the various projects and pilot projects in Attract?
Well, sure. I think, my background is more in management rather than pure science like Michael. So I'd like to impress how humble he's being about some of the wonderful things that they do at these large, big scientific research infrastructures. When I've always had a strong interest in science, and when I come out to visit some of these infrastructures and better understand the technologies that they're developing, I am completely amazed at how sophisticated they are and how just further out in time they are in the future compared to what we normally see in the marketplace. So it really should be emphasized how just incredibly refined and sophisticated and the potential value of these technologies exists for the European community. Now, so as Michael very accurately said, the question is, if these are developed for one scientific purpose, what mechanisms do we need to get them out of the infrastructures and into alternative applications where they can realize value for the European economy? And of course, is the obvious thing that I guess the central focus is the seed funding. So each of the 170 projects has received 100,000 euros in seed funding, and they have 12 months to develop a proof of concept. That is to somehow substantiate the technological feasibility of what they are arguing that they're going to do. Secondly, there are other things that are important, and that is, how close are these technologies to actual market applications? So, for example, you can think of things that are totally brilliant in terms of the technological sophistication, but if they're so far away any type of real commercial application or any system of use, that could be problematic. So the other levers that Attract provides to these projects are we provide a lot of training in business planning, commercialization, entrepreneurship, even things, the legal matters, sales and marketing, these more mundane things, but are very, very necessary. And then a third component is to also engage in what we call the student pilots that you mentioned. The student pilots are very important for a variety of reasons. One, it familiarizes a large group of up-and-coming important members of society of what these technologies are, what they're capable of, and what potential they have. Secondly, it brings new stimulus and perspectives to the project owners, who very much see their technologies or problems in the context of the problems they're working on in the here and now. And so when we talk a lot about design thinking and these types of methods of looking at new business opportunities, they'll very much take a broader, more anthropological position on the social meanings or applications or systems of use around a technology rather than a purely engineering one. And these two perspectives complement each other, we think, in a very powerful way. And the feedback we get from the project owners is that, yeah, this is really, really good combination for them because it helps them think differently about how the technologies could be applied.
Thank you, Jonathan. And I would immediately use the opportunity, since we are talking about the value of the students pilots and also the different way from the different angles that we consider these pilot projects with students. We are very grateful to have today with us one of the students working in Attract, Sini Simpura. So Sini, could you tell us about your role as a student, role and experience as a student, as a project manager within Attract? Please, Sini, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I would say that it's really great for the students because it's a real problem that we're solving. Because I think we're more used to having these university problems, but they're not real life problems that we're actually solving. So now we get the chance to actually do something meaningful. So we also get other motivation other than just the grades that we get, which is, I think, is really great. Another thing that I think about, especially this, is that we don't only get engineering students. We had a fashion student, for example, in our team, a design student. We had some business students, and that is something that we don't usually in our university get. So with this project, we can kind of see different ways to approach these problems. And we are given like quite free hands, so that I think we have a really diverse kind of like look on the problem and how to solve it. So I think that is the best part.
Mm-hmm. And how many students are working together? Do you work in small teams, or do you work also have links also with other projects?
Yeah, so we work in small teams, but it's a course, so there are a lot of teams, and we get help from the course assistants and course professor, and they give us the facility to like do 3D printing and do all the prototyping and so on. So we are working, our team had 6 members, but we would always get help from the other teams and also from the course organizers and course staff.
Thank you, Sini. This is a very interesting insight into the diversity of projects that Attract is conducting. Cynthia, may I also give you the floor to tell us a little bit more about your experience in relation to the portfolio of Attract project. What is the potential, what it gives as a potential for research infrastructures, and also in this project, since you have a very broad experience on a variety of projects, what is key for such projects like Attract, and what is key for building ecosystems like Attract in deep tech?
Thank you. So yes, as Michael already mentioned, we had really quite a big turnout for this project for Attract. And over the 1,200 proposals, we selected only a handful of 170. All of them were focused on detection and imaging. And of course, the reason for doing that is that detection and imaging is really part of a lot of research, so fundamental research projects, and I'm referring to my familiar environment, which is, for example, energy physics, but you can find them in everyday life, excuse me, medicine, biology, and many other applications. When we are discussing about detection and imaging, we are referring to all the set of technology that need to be developed for that. And they are really spanning from sensors, but also front-end electronics, back-end electronics. We have data acquisition system and computing, software and integration. And therefore, we are also dealing with big data transmission, data storage, data manipulations, and computing. So this is really quite a vast range of technology and technological aspects which are developed in that and that could be transferred. And we have several examples already from the past into real life and sociological challenges. Medicine, of course, is one of them, but as I mentioned also other fields. So the potential for innovation in research is really huge. Also because all those projects, they were what we call blue sky. And this means that they were very creative projects, very new idea, challenging ideas with the potential of being disruptive, high risk. So the jargon for that is high risk, but with high return. And this is the reason why having this 1-year feasibility study was essential to try and see which one of those really would be a potential to move on and transfer into potentially being products or becoming prototypes. So the key for this success in an ecosystem like Attract is that from the start, we have the component of creativity coming from academia, for example, or research groups, but together with industries, big corporations, SME, as I said, research infrastructure, research laboratories. So, and of course, the component coming from ESADE with business and understanding on how to transfer these ideas into a much wider structure. So I would say that this is what makes Attract so special, because from the start we have all these components together. And last but definitely not least, the students. And my experience with dealing with the students has been extraordinary, because the ideas, the creativity that came really from them is unique. We need them, and we can really see where the innovative ideas and the seeds for utilizing, also using what is out there for new projects in technology comes from. I would like to conclude that by saying that looking at the statistics that we had with the project, we had that 40% of principal investigators were women. And we had an age group which was really predominant in the successful project of young researchers. So there were also, of course, much more experienced researchers as well, but the amount of young researchers who really had an opportunity in this way to put forward their views, their ideas independently was absolutely extraordinary. So a fantastic experience.
Thank you, Cynthia, for sharing with us your fantastic experience, and also you rightly pointed out to the diversity that you have in your projects, and this leads me to the fact that ecosystems are also very diverse. Ecosystems attract a big variety of actors, which need to be connected, which need to come together in order also to reinforce and to make the innovators also scale up within this ecosystem. So this connection, bringing together a diversity of actors, a diversity of research or technological field, is essential. And I think that here we can we could also reflect about another viewpoint linked to an ecosystem like Attract. And I would like to ask Maria, since you are a policy maker, you are in the advisory board of the EIC, of the EIT, and also on with the EIC. So, what as policymaker can you tell us about the special role that the policymakers can play in developing such ecosystems like Attract? And how do such projects like Attract relate or could be linked also to the EIC and the EIT, for instance? So please, Maria, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. You hear me well, do you?
Perfectly, Maria.
Good. Okay. So we have the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, we have the Attract, and the European Innovation Council. So these have been developed separately, independently. Now the question is, what are the synergies? How could these three programs really work together to provide added value? So they do have different profiles, but they do have the same mission. And the mission is translation of research strengths in Europe to jobs and growth. So let me compare these three programs. The EIT is there since 10 years. In Horizon Europe, it will probably have 3 billion euros. The mission is to create innovation ecosystems by enhancing companies' access to talent and partners and market opportunities. EIT also provides support for companies' startup and scale-up activities, and the EIT integrates education, research, and business. So about Attract we heard, and to crystallize, Attract develops research-based breakthrough technologies by bringing together researchers and industrial communities and big research infrastructures. Now the fully fledged EIC from next year on in Horizon Europe, 10 billion euros probably will support breakthrough innovations with potential to create new markets. It targets mostly individual researchers in a specific program, Pathfinder program, and then individual SMEs in another program, Accelerator program. So now I would like to compare these three programs concerning particular features of them. Let's first look at the thematic aspect. Now the EIT works in a thematic way. It has this knowledge and innovation communities, which are called KICs, in 8 specific areas today. This is climate, digital, food, health, energy, manufacturing, raw materials, and urban mobility. Now, Attract has a very clear thematic focus, which is detection and imaging technologies. But then again, these technologies impact major technology areas. And if I compare the EIT thematic areas that I just listed with the themes that Attract really works with, I can find the following: advanced manufacturing, medical devices and imaging technologies, life science and biotechnology, clean and green technologies, materials and coatings, conventional energy, and ICT. And these are now Attract areas, and they really coincide with what EIT is doing. Now, the EIC then is mainly bottom-up, so it funds any technology areas. So then let's have a look at the nature of the entities. So the EIT has a headquarter in Budapest, which is a legal entity, and all of these 8 thematic KICs, they are legal entities. Now, Attract is a Horizon program with a project advisory committee and consortium board and an administrative office, whereas the EIC is planned to have a dedicated executive agency as of next year, with governance, with an EIC president and an independent board. Now, then a few words about partners. EIT has more than 1,500 business and research partners, education organizations, 70 top universities. Attract has these fantastic European research infrastructures that were listed, where individual member states then, according to voluntary basis, are members. And this is a huge asset, the avant-garde research infrastructures for the EIT and the EIC awardees. And then Attract has these 2 universities, Aalto University and ESADE, the business school, and then the EIRMA association, which connects the Attract other elements to the European industrial sector. Whereas then EIC has no operative partner organizations. And then just a few words to close about the geographical coverage. The EIT nowadays, after 10 years of existence, it covers all of Europe. The KICs, each of these thematic KICs has a headquarter and then up to 4 or 5 nodes, all in different countries. So it's at least 15 EU countries where we find the KICs. Plus, the EIT also pays attention to those countries which are modest performers in the European Innovation Scoreboard, and these are 14 countries from the Baltic Sea down to the south, where the EIT has created hubs. So this is a huge coverage. Attract, of course, the European research institutes are in a couple of countries. But then the EIRMA, of course, is a cross-border organization, and your researchers and innovators can come from and work in any EU state. So the EIC, then the awardees can reside in any member state. So there's a lot in common. The major aim is in common. The profiles are different. The ways how these 3 programs work are different, but there is absolutely fantastic opportunities for synergy and collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, for giving us the viewpoint from the policy perspective and also integrating the Attract project in the broader environment of also funding opportunities and programs at European level that also make innovation and disruptive innovation happen and support disruptive innovation. We have seen in this first round of discussion the various components of Attract, and what I would like to do with you is for the second part of our discussion, of our conversation, I would like to invite you to reflect about what makes Attract such a success, such a pioneering initiative, and from your views, from your different angle of views, what you can take and what you learn from Attract that could inspire the creation of other innovation ecosystems in the field of deep tech, or also in other fields, in other fields. So from your viewpoint, what makes it such a success, and what we can take and what we could maybe reuse or also take to inspire also for the creation of similar ecosystems with various actors in Europe. Because here with Attract, we are targeting the research infrastructures. So there is also maybe something to learn and to also expand. I've seen that Cynthia has raised her hand, so I will give you the floor. And then I also will suggest that Jonathan tells us after Cynthia a little bit more about the results of a survey that you also have conducted on the outcomes of the projects, and that can give, which can also give us some views about what have been the successful results of a project such Attract. But Cynthia, please.
Yes, I think that one of the secrets for such an ecosystem with so many players, and in particular when we have researchers and industrial partners from the start, is really to be there creating the project and developing the project together. This element of trust that builds between all the various partners can only be created with time, and it is invaluable. Many other projects in the past started with an innovator, maybe some university researcher, who has been then contacting later on industrial partners. I think it is a little bit more difficult in this sense. Starting together from the very beginning is really creating this trustworthy atmosphere, and which allows discussing the ideas, also innovative ideas, with the certainty that these really will be successful and it would not breach any trustworthy relationship. So to me, I would say I really would put on the table, starting from the start, all together with all the ecosystem partners. I think it is the key for success. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Don't hesitate to raise your hands if you would like to intervene. But now I would like to hear more about the results of the survey that has been conducted on the outcomes, and it will also enable us getting a view on what has been achieved. So, Jonathan, please, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Well, I think the best way of framing this discussion is to, think, how do we conceptualize Attract? Is it a supply side initiative, or is it a demand side one? And in reality, of course, it's both. So we have the technologies that have been paid for, developed, tested, and run at scale already in these large infrastructures. So that's not the problem. The problem or the challenge for Attract has been to provide sort of the demand pull on these technologies to get them out of the laboratories and realize or help their maturation towards being products or services. Now, what have we learned in this process? And it's important to emphasize that the first year of Attract is not over yet, so we haven't done any formal evaluation of the projects. So what I'm going to say is based on surveys, opinions, and so forth, but not a substantial evaluation of the success of any individual project that our scientific board will be conducting later. But what we've learned is that many of the engineers or scientists who are working on these projects had their ideas before Attract came along. So we've conducted a survey of the 170 projects, and what they've told us is, yeah, we were confronted with some problem, and we said, couldn't this be useful in medical diagnostics, or couldn't it be useful in energy, or couldn't it be useful in cybersecurity, or something like that? What Attract did, and our results tell this very clearly, is it gave them the opportunity to further work on those ideas. And once again, not only because of the financial seed monies, but also because of the ecosystems, the training, the networking, etc. What they valued very, very highly, which was somewhat of a surprise to us, is the connections to industry that they developed. So, one of the requirements for Attract is all the projects had to have a minimum of 2 partners. And we very much hoped that they would partner up with commercial entities that already had the abilities to commercialize these projects for fairly logical reasons. And they did value these contacts with industries that Attract provided. That being said, I think that's something we can be even better at if Attract or any other innovation ecosystem is going to attempt this in the future, right? I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, and you have to realize that there is a slight difference in mentality between a company that is out and has customers and is selling products for looking to meet quarterly results or annual results, and these deep tech technologies, which can be years away from any commercialization. So facilitating those relationships is something that I think we've done well, but we can do it even better. Finally, the other thing that we learned is they do feel that Attract has been very helpful for them in establishing relationships to national sources of funding, that is public sources of funding, and private sources of funding. However, I think this is also another area which we can improve or increase our efforts into, as we continue to work with Attract. And it's something that once again, because of the different cycle times and different mentalities in these different sectors, we're deep tech. We're talking about some technologies that are, when we say deep in the channel, very, very, very far upstream in terms of where they are in any specific industrial product, and financial entities that think very, very short term. So bridging these gaps is something that we can also be better at doing. I think we've done a good job at it thus far, but we can be much better at it.
Thank you, Jonathan, for this viewpoint and also for sharing with us your experience about what we can learn from Attract, and what are the essential elements that make it a success and that could also be expanded. Maybe it would be interesting also to hear the views of the students and of Sini on what she takes from Attract and learn from Attract, and that could also be expanded also to the younger generation of researchers. Sini, if you would like to take the floor. And the Michael, I think I don't know. Okay, Sini, please.
Yes, thank you. So for me, I think what was really different was the collision with the different schools in our university. So the business, design, and engineering. And I feel like in many companies, for example, engineers also always work together only. And so I think when we actually combine people and with different backgrounds, different ideas, it really brings really great ideas. We worked in a really different way that I would have worked with only engineers. We did a lot of prototypes because we had a fashion student, and she says this is how we do it. And we thought for us, that's actually a really good way to do our project as well, to do a lot of prototypes and then to see which ones are the ones that actually work. And so I feel like that's something that I can take from this project with me.
Thank you, Sini. Maybe I see that we have lost the connection with Michael. So maybe Maria, from your experience, what do you take from a project like Attract as an experience, and what can and also specifically from the view of policymaking?
Yes, so I would like to now adhere to something that we heard from Jonathan, and he talked about the industry academia collaboration and the different cultures that these two sectors have. concerning now the ambition level, where of course in research it has to always have to be very high, but it is high also in the private sector, of course, and the timelines which differ. But now I think that Attract and also EIT, they are preparing a cultural change. They are pushing a cultural change where now these two sectors come closer together and start to understand better each other. This is immensely valuable, and it is really a prerequisite for what we are aiming at, research findings being translated to jobs and new markets and growth of Europe. Now, one element which now brings me back to what Cynthia said, you said that earlier on it was like research first, and then later on maybe contact somewhere to see whether the research findings could be applied. Whereas now in Attract, the two parties work together, and hopefully from day one, the researchers, deep tech researchers, and the appliers. And now I would like to add something here. It is not only from research to applications, but the applicational pathway will create new fundamental questions for basic research. And when these go parallel, they feed each other. The applicational pathway feeds the research pathway and the other way around, and that's a fantastic thing. So we want that to happen. One more thing I would like to say, we have not too much mentioned the universities. Now Attract has Aalto and it has ESADE, which is extremely good. Now, the researchers work mostly in universities, of course, also in research institutes, but I would like to ask those familiar with the Attract program, whether you are dealing at all with the leaderships of universities. Are the presidents of the universities and the vice rectors for research and innovation aware of what the Attract program can provide? They should be. But have we done enough to sort of alert those who then decide about the conditions in the universities, about these new opportunities to really fulfill the third mission of the universities, which is benefits for society?
Thank you, Maria. And maybe there's one of the speakers would like to complement what Maria, to respond to what Maria has said. Raise your hands. I see that we are losing some connection with some speakers. So maybe since yes, please.
I can speak. Oh, yeah, I can speak to that. Her question was a rhetorical one, I think. But I speaking to that issue, I think when we look at our initial efforts to broadcast and to publicize the opportunities available to Attract, our emphasis very much was on scientists and engineers working at the research infrastructures, right? Because that was our primary audience, and for obvious reasons. And now Maja brings up a very, I think, relevant point and an important one, and that is, now that we have that primary audience covered and we're established, those communication channels are established, we very much need to reach out to other academic institutions that are in the core of what we do or on the periphery of what we do, to help draw them in, to help bring in, just new input and new actors into this ecosystem. So that's a really important, I think, takeaway too, in terms of how we can improve things in the future.
Thank you, Jonathan. I see that we are close to the end of our session. We still have 2 minutes left. So maybe I could look into the questions and answers about whether there is a question from the audience. It's linked to a successor of Attract under Horizon Europe, in Horizon Europe. Maybe I can briefly touch upon this question. We are currently, as you know, preparing Horizon Europe, and we are in the course of identifying the initiatives that could be part of the future work programs of Horizon Europe to enter into force on the 1st of January of next year. So here it is, I believe, the right moment to explore possibilities for continuation of Attract in the future. It depends, of course, on many issues, but in any case, there is some room to further explore this opportunity for the future, and I believe we are at the right moment of the creation process of the future Horizon Europe programs to be set up. I would also, in order to close the session, because I hope we won't be cut, I think we have to finalize. Maybe if I can just recall the keywords that that I retained from our discussion of today, which is that Attract has many different components, many different projects that are brought together, and it's a combination of those ideas and people that make it a success, and the connection that Attract managed to build within its deep tech ecosystems, and this connection that make it a success. And here clearly from Cynthia we could also take from the experience that trust is the essence in building this ecosystem, and also time, because these are huge research projects, programs and projects. These are high-risk programs, high-risk projects, and it requires also to build this trust, to get the various actors on board, the investors and also the research community on board in order to implement this project. So here clearly some key elements that could build an ecosystem. Just give me a hand call from the organization whether we are still on board. If not, I would like to thank the speakers for attending this session. It's enabled us to have a deeper view into the Attract project and to know from these various point of views how and what makes Attract a success, and what we can learn from such a program in order also to expand, to be a model for also other innovation ecosystem building in Europe. Many thanks. I would also like to thank Michael, who lost unfortunately the connection because of technical issues. But thanks to all of you. It has been a great pleasure for me to be with you today, and I'm looking forward also to meeting you in the future, hopefully in live, but at least here it was my great pleasure, and I'm very thankful for your valuable insights into the Attract projects. Many thanks.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Fabian, I may add, we have a wonderful website where anybody who's interested can go and look at any of the 170 projects in great detail. We have some wonderful videos about the student projects, and we have some higher level meta-analyses of the Attract program. So it's just go to Google and write Attract EU, and there's a treasure of great information there.
Great, Jonathan. That was very important that you still mentioned it. Many thanks, Jonathan, and please have a look into the Attract project, and I hope it will also inspire you as it is inspiring us on this project. Many thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Fabienne.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Sini, Jonathan, Cynthia.
Thank you.